Well, I don't know if I can answer them all, but anyway, let's attempt to answer one by one. Some of these questions were written in Chinese and some in English, so I just read it out. Whatever is in Chinese, I read in Chinese, but I attempt to translate it too. Venerable Master Guan Cheng, I think this is in Cantonese, 唯識論有冇 Q 版入門？咩叫 Q 版？我唔係知道咩叫 Q 版。Q 版係咩啊 ？Q 版係咪即係話 open to the public? Well, anyway, it says, meet the school of studying of the consciousness. Does it have any introduction, any beginner's book leading to the understanding of consciousness? I think that's what it means. 竅板入門, something like for beginners. Yes, the 唯識論, the study of mere consciousness, or in the Sanskrit language is Vijnana Matrata. How the individual's 8 consciousnesses interact with the outside world. We have 8 consciousnesses. What are these 8? The 5 senses, the eye consciousness. You see, when all our senses, when the eye look at matter, so eye is the sense organ. That matter, that form, is the enviro, is the outside object. When the eye see the outside object, eye interact with form, then a consciousness of eye consciousness is created. When the ear, the auditory, interact with sound, then the auditory consciousness is created. When the nose, then the smell consciousness, the tongue, the taste consciousness, the body, the touch consciousness. So our 6 senses will interact with the outer objects to create the consciousness. Okay, so 6 interact with 6 and create the 6 consciousness. So altogether, 3, 6 is 18. So there's 18 different objects. We still call that objects. But let's put away the 18. I'm getting too much into details. The 8 consciousnesses. So you have the eye consciousnesses, the ear, the nose, the body, and the taste. And then there's also the mano consciousness, which is the egoistic consciousness. And then there's also the alaya consciousness, which is a storage consciousness. So all that you have to study. Yes, there's beginners. You can even check into the internet. If you look for 唯識學、唯識論，很多這一類的有。Please explain second question. Please explain non-conceptualization. Remember the 5 scanters, the 5 aggregates. That this individual, this body, is made up of the body and mind. We make up of the 5 aggregates. 五蕴, 我们人是五蕴, 五蕴. What are these 5 the 5 scanters? Is form, perception, conception, volition, and consciousness. The form, we know this is the body, the lung, the spleen, the skin, the bone. And then there's also the perception. Perception is your sense organs perceive the outside world. Perception. Once your senses perceive or interact with the outside world, the eye itself cannot discriminate, cannot conceptualize. The eye is just like the lens of the camera. The shutters, it converges to image. But then there's something beyond, something more to conceptualize it. This is round, this is square, this is sharp, this is red, this is black, this is white. Or this is tall, this is short. There's something to conceptualize it, to discriminate it, to analyze it, to make a judgment of it. Then there's there's conceptualizations. We always conceptualize. This guy I hate, this guy I like. This is a poor guy, this is a rich guy, this is a fat guy, this is a thin guy. We discriminate, we judge, we analyze, we have love and hatred, like and dislike. We live in a world of conceptualization. And sometimes, and most of the time, this kind of conceptualization would bring you a lot of misjudgment. You conceptualize a certain individual based on his appearance. But this guy, I don't like this guy. This guy has an aquiline nose. This guy looks like a bad guy. And you conceptualize things. You stigmatize things. You labelize things. Problem comes when you conceptualize, particularly if you conceptualize it in the wrong way. A lot of mental afflictions because of conceptualize. Non-conceptualization is when you don't conceptualize, when you treat everything as if you're not living in duality. You don't pass the judgment of hatred immediately, like or dislike. If you don't conceptualize, the whole world would be more or less in unity. You don't judge by appearance. You don't judge by conceptualizations. However, you judge with wisdom, of course. So non-conceptualizations, that means you don't discriminate. You don't have hate and hatred and love. Rich and poor, tall and short, ugly and beautiful. You don't conceptualize that way. A Bodhisattva does not conceptualize. He treats all sentient beings on equal ground. More than just not conceptualizing, he will not conceptualize on the close list among individuals. In other words, this is my relative. I help my relative first before I help you. You are second class. My relative is first class. This is my son. This is my daughter. This is my wife. The Bodhisattva treat everything as the same. The sincerity, the eagerness to help, the compassion is all rendered in the same way, without conceptualization. So that's it. You understand conceptual? Non-conceptualization, not conceptualizing it that way. Next is the Chinese questions. 现代人、平凡人很难做到六根清净，如六祖未能的心性、基本本性具足佛性，祈求做佛，舍身香味出法。请解释为什么是这样。What it says is, the average, ordinary people, they cannot achieve the purity of the six sense organs. Like the sixth patriarch Dharma master says that you already have that Buddha nature in you, you just become the Buddha. You don't need to purify your six senses because you have that nature. So that's what the question is. I don't know, it's easier for me to answer in Chinese than in English. It says that, well, the Buddha nature, you already have your Buddha nature. That Buddha nature is purity, is one purity. So you don't really need to practice because you have that Buddha nature in you. Why do you still need it? It's already, you've got it already. You don't need to purify your senses. You don't need to practice. You don't need to train your eyes, your ear, your nose, your taste. You don't need to train it so that it filters out all the mental afflictions and become egoistic because you already have that Buddha nature. Isn't that what the sutras is all about? The sutra says that you have that original Buddha nature in you. If you have that Buddha nature in you, like the sixth patriarch master said, you don't need to cultivate it. It's already there. Well, that's a misconception. Let me give you an example. In Alberta, there's a lot of oil in certain lands. And in a certain spot, whether you drill into the crust of the earth, drill into it, the oil is already there. The oil underground, it does not matter whether you drill or you not drill. It already has that inherent stuff in there. But if you don't drill it, you never get it. It's there, but you never get it. You still need to practice. You still need to drill. You still need to apply efforts to it. You are the rich guy because you own that land with plentifulness of oil. But you are a poor guy because you can't get it out. You know you are rich though. You can't say, I am rich because I have that oil on the ground. But as you are as poor as a penniless individual because you can't get it out to sell. You're rich only in your original nature. In your originality, you're rich. But you're poor because you haven't drilled it down. You haven't got it. You still need to practice. That's a good analogy. There's an analogy in the Saddam, Puerto Rico too. There was a poor guy, and his father sewed a lot of treasures into his sleeves, and he went about begging and working odd jobs to keep a living. But then he has a lot of treasure under his sleeves. He didn't find it until one day someone said, "Your father sewed all these treasures in your sleeve. Why don't you just cut it open? You get it." He doesn't know about it. And some people don't even know, but that oil, yes, you've got it. You got that nature. You got that oil, but you still need to drill it. You still need to practice to get it out. So that's why the Buddha, born into this world to tell you, you've got to get that oil out. You've got to practice. You've got to attain nirvana. You've got to have that bodhi. Don't go through suffering. Don't go through impermanence. Get away from it. Get away from reincarnation. So you need to do it. I'll say, okay, so I don't want to go on. This is a good question. No, most of this are good. As a matter of fact, all questions are good because you need just some understanding to it. The Buddha said that all things are impermanent. Is enlightenment therefore also impermanent? Can one fall back into ignorance and rebirth after having attained enlightenment? There's two parts to this question. The first question is, since all things are impermanent, is enlightenment therefore also impermanent? You're absolutely right. According to logic, if that's the premises, all things are impermanent. Enlightenment is a thing, it's a Dharma. Is it impermanent? Of course it is. Enlightenment is just the boat to Victoria. When you get to Victoria from Nanaimo, you've got to get off the boat. That boat, the vehicle, is just to take you there. You don't attach to it. That enlightenment is all causes put together for you to attain that enlightenment. When the enlightenment is attained, they say there's nothing to be obtained. So, is enlightenment therefore also impermanent? You are right, it is impermanent. It does not contradict it. You need to get off the boat. Enlightenment is only a method, a vehicle. Can one fall back into ignorance and rebirth after having attained enlightenment? When you have attained enlightenment, you won't fall back. That's what we call by Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi. Anuttara. What is Anuttara? Anuttara is not falling back, not going back again. When you're out of it, when you're out of the world, you can't fall back again. Because if you will fall back again spontaneously because of karma, that means you haven't got it. But, and I said but, there's an exception. Some people make a vow, make a wish, and he said, I will attain enlightenment. Once I attain enlightenment, I want to come back. I want to come back this world to help. In other words, once I achieve in that land of nirvana, that land of enlightenment, I don't want to be just in eternal happiness. I want to go back to the world to help my folks. My folks are still suffering in there. I can't enjoy myself in purity and happiness when my folks are suffering. I want to go back there to help until there's no folks left in hell. That's what Siddhagarbha was doing, is doing, or has been doing. Bodhisattva Siddhagarbha make a vow. He said, I will be constantly going back to the world, birth after birth, to help, until there's no victim in hell, until hell is crumbled down, no more hell. If there's one individual in hell, I won't become the Buddha. I want to go back there. It's just like in a forest of suffering. Siddhagarbha already walked out from that forest. He already got that map. He already got that routes to get out from that horrible forest of suffering. He got out already. But when he was at the borderline, he said, I don't want to get out. My folks are still there. How can I leave them behind? I want to go to them and show them the map to get out. So you go back there life after life to show them the map. This is how you get out. We not only have this life, Bodhisattvas, you see, among all of us, there's a lot of Bodhisattvas. There are people who die for the country. There are people who give examples as to how to live the right way of life. There's so many Bodhisattvas coming back. I can cite many examples, and I've always been giving examples. Like, for example, Helen Keller. She's an example of struggling, an example of struggling hard to give an example to the whole world that what you can achieve by your mind. She's absolutely crippled with no sight, no hearing, only touch, no sound. Live in a world of no sound, no sight, only touch. But she was able to show the whole world that you can be as successful, you can be as helpful, you can be as compassionate. She could be a Bodhisattva coming back, reborn to this world to help out. And there's many other examples. Heroines and heroines of the world, Abraham Lincoln, emancipation of slaves, or Albert Einstein, discovery of certain theory to help the world. I still remember one saying from Albert Einstein. He says that there are two ways to live your life. One is as if everything is a miracle. The other is if nothing is. Which one do you like? You want to live a life with everything is a miracle, or you want to live a life that nothing is a miracle? And there's one saying from Helen Keller, which I always remember. It's very worthwhile to remember. And she said, security is a superstition. In the wild natural world, there's no security. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Life is a daring adventure, or life is nothing. Which one you prefer? You want to prefer a life which is a daring adventure, or you want to prefer a life that is breakfast, lunch, going to work, wipe up the diapers of the babies, wash clothes. You go through all those rigmaroles and every day and doing the same thing, and you are satisfied with it, and then one day you died, or we died. And that's it about life? That is under the category of nothing in Helen Keller's definition of life. I think we all prefer to be adventurous. We prefer to know something, at least to prefer to know something about yourself. Where did we come from? Where am I going? What will become of me? How do I improve myself? How do I bring welfare to my folks? So, what am I going? I'm going into another direction to answer this question. So, can you fall back into ignorance and rebirth? You won't. But you want to come back into this world of suffering to help out. That's your vow, your wish. Okay? That's the question. How can we put to work the self-esteem and no ego thinking together without falling into attachment? Can we, how can we put to work the self-esteem and the no ego? In other words, does it mean that if I have no ego, I don't have self-esteem? It depends on your definition of self-esteem. Self-esteem could be viewed from two perspectives. If I'm interacting with an individual, I highly respect his or her self-esteem, so I'm courteous. I'm not yelling at him. I'm not blaming him. I'm not criticizing him. I'm not trying to find faults unreasonably. I have to be mindful of his or her self-esteem. That is from a third party's point of view. From the individual point of view, if I've done something wrong, and I know I'm wrong, I won't maintain my self-esteem and deny that I'm wrong. Some people are like that. Some people, I have this strong self-esteem in me that I don't acknowledge my mistake. I don't want to be blamed. I don't want to be criticized. Now that's not a good way of respecting your self-esteem. So individually, your own self-esteem should be lower. You can accept more. In other words, if this cup is filled with water, you can't fill it up with water again. You empty out. Empty your self-esteem, your stigmatization of your egoistic feeling. This is my ego. You empty out your water, then you can put more into it. Don't hang on to your self-esteem. However, if I'm interacting with you, I respect your self-esteem. So there's two ways of looking at the same coin, two sides of looking at it. So, how can I balance my self-esteem and my no ego? How do you balance it? If you've done something wrong, people criticize you, then you lower your self-esteem. No more egoistic feeling of I don't want to be blamed. I'm better. I have the pride. You lower your self-esteem. That is called forbearance. That's called endurance. That's called patience. And the laughing Buddha is practicing forbearance. Some people spit on him. The children throw stones at him. He just laugh it off. And this laughing Buddha, the big belly Buddha, one day was walking in the street, and then there's a novice monk going up and asked, "Venerable, what is Buddhism?" The big belly Buddha was carrying a bag on his back, a big bag. And this novice monk asked, "What is Buddhism?" And then the laughing Buddha just smiled and put the bag on the ground. And then the novice monk said, "Venerable, I'm asking you, please give me instructions. What is Buddhism?" And the laughing Buddha didn't say anything and smiled and put the bag back onto his back and walked away. And the novice monk was perplexed. Why did the laughing Buddha just put his bag on the ground and later just put the bag back onto the back and walk away? So the novice monk went back to ask his own master, "Master, today I met the big belly monk, and this is what happened." And then the master said, "Oh, my disciple, you don't understand. When the laughing monk put the bag on the ground, it means Buddhism is to let go. Let go of it. Don't hang on to it. Let go of your mental afflictions. Let go of your jealousy, your hatred, your arrogance, your greediness. You let that all go. That's Buddhism. Let go of your ego. That's Buddhism." And then how come he put his bag back again on his back and walk away? "Oh, my young disciple, when he put his bag back on his back, that means Buddhism is to forbear, is to be responsible, is to learn, is to put the responsibility of helping sentient beings like the responsibility on your back. Not just letting go. You have to take it up. Letting go and taking it up. Not just letting go, you have to take it up too. It's two sides of the same coin. So you tell me, your self-esteem and your ego, maybe you should learn how to let go, and at the same time, how to take it up. Can you do both? It's difficult. Sometimes I find I can't do it. But we try to. What is sexual misconduct for Buddhism? Sexual misconduct is, if it's not a husband and wife relationship, man and a woman, if it's not a legal wife, husband and wife relationship and you're involved in that relationship, that's sexual misconduct. And of course, that includes prostitution. That includes a one-night stand, they call it. That includes all that kind of thing. That's sexual misconduct. Sexual misconduct, you think that some people think that, oh, sexual misconduct is based on the willingness of two parties. What's wrong with it? She likes it and I like it. What's wrong with it? No. It's been registered as a karma in you. You can't get away with it. Why? Because you sowed the seeds of sexual misconduct in your alaya consciousness. In other words, you sow this sexual misconduct as a seed in your computer memory. Vicious seeds, as seeds of non-fidelity. It will come back to you. You can't get away with it. You don't think that it's on the willingness of both parties, no one gets hurt, but your alaya consciousness registered it. Your memory has it. You can't destroy your memory. Your computer memory. It's got in there. The more you do, and also, let me tell you a little bit more about this. I read another book by Walter Russell. Walter Russell, you know, is a genius in the 1980s, in the 1960s and 70s. He was the architect for the first New York skyscraper, more than 100 floors. He was the architect for it, and he didn't learn architecture in his life. He just did it. He was also the figure skating championship of Olympic, and he's almost like a genius for many things. And in one of his books, he says he discovered something. He discovered that the wisdom of an individual is being affected by the interaction of is being affected by his sexual life. In other words, the more promiscuity you're going through, the lower will be your wisdom. Do you understand what I mean? You understand promiscuity? If you're always involved with woman and man relationship, you think nobody knows about it. You think that it's on a willingness of both parties, but your wisdom level is going down. Especially if your partner is a lower level wisdom. It seems that the wisdom always try to, like the water level, is trying to find its equilibrium. Do you go through the lab test of the water level, find the same, two tubes, a lot of tubes, if you rush through it with water, water will find the same level. Your wisdom is higher, but if you go through those tubes that are lower, you got a lower wisdom. You can't get it back. A lot of adverse effects. From now on, no more of those. No promiscuity. If you study the Buddha's teaching, no promiscuity, no relationship. That's why all monks and nuns have to lead a celibate life. All right, I'm going too much details into all these. And another question, if I don't protect my ego from others, will I not allow them to hurt me, No. If I don't protect my ego, you are thinking about protecting your ego. You fall into the trap of being egoistic already. Your ego is a bondage that binds you into trouble. When your ego is gone, what happened? It's just like we have a saying, when no thought arises, what arises? Prajna arises. In the Chinese language, 一念不生，般若生. When no thought is there, when the ego is gone, the wisdom arises. The supreme wisdom arises. When the supreme wisdom arises, would you be cheated by people? You'll be like a saint. You'll be like the most intelligent person in your group. When you don't have that ego, when all this ego war, the prison ego in the prison, and when all this war crumble, you see more of the outside world. You know a lot more. Your knowledge is 100 times more than the person who is hurting you. In other words, you are now a PhD, and there's a kindergarten who is hurting you. You think you will be hurt by the kindergarten student? You won't, because you are a PhD. Your intelligence is much higher. You won't be hurt by individuals whose intelligence is much lower than you, because you know how to avoid it. You know how to tackle it. You know how to get away with it. In other words, if you become less and less egoistic, you become more and more intelligent. I can't answer questions in this way before, because I'm practicing a less and less ego. I'm able to answer these questions with a little bit of intelligence. Yeah. So that happens. So if I don't protect my ego from others, so they won't be hurt. Okay. 如何解释舍利子现象? So this is easy to understand. Actually, you can get it quite easily from the internet. 舍利子 is spherosis or something like that. I forgot the Sanskrit word for it. When a practitioner, when a monk, or when someone who practiced the enlightenment way passes away, he'll be cremated. And after cremation, there's a lot of diamond-like crystals left in the ashes. And you can crush it. It's as strong as diamond. The density is almost close to 100% density. A diamond has a 100% density, right? Because it's very hard. And all of a sudden, when that body burned or cremated, there's a lot of this kind of remnants in there. Colorful. Most monks, high-level monks, venerables, the most venerable monks, they practice well. When body cremated, then they have this left. And one of my teachers, he got a lot of this salids left behind. And how did he get it? If a monk practiced celibacy in thinking for at least 30 years, the saying goes like that. In other words, if I'm a monk and I don't have this thought about female and male thought, no sexual thought, not even a thought in me for 30 years, then the internal metabolism of the body produces a certain enzymes or something like that, that when the body is burned away, that becomes crystal. In other words, that shows how celibate in thinking that monk is. So if you don't have that kind of thought, promiscuity thought in your mind for at least 30 years, then you will have that kind of phenomenon. Okay, that answers that question. Okay, what is the significance of the lying Buddha? When the Buddha passes away, he was lying like that. And when we sleep, you should be sleeping on one side. That is the most auspicious way of sleeping. Don't sleep like this. We sleep like on one side, and don't sleep on the heart side, because you're compressing your heart. So always sleep on the right hand side like that. Not with this. Your head will be resting on your palm. Then if you sleep it that way, you won't have bad dreams. And that's a very auspicious way of sleeping. And you won't press your heart too. So that's the lying Buddha. And when a Buddha passes away, that's the way he passed away. And also, when all practitioners, all monks and nuns, they practice sleeping that way too. All right, this is the lying. How do you comment on Jesus? Is he a Buddha? I'm not in a position to comment and criticize on Jesus, because I don't know too much about the biblical information. I got bits and pieces picked up here and there. I don't claim myself to be an expert on biblical knowledge, but from my own analysis, Jesus is a saint. Symbolically or physically, I don't know if he died on the cross for his folks, if he preaches a certain way, if he preaches morality, if he preaches non-egoistic style of living, if he preaches compassion. He's a saint. Is he a Buddha? Why do we have to correlate Buddha to Jesus? You mean if I say Jesus is a Buddha, then it would be, oh, my Jesus is the same as your Buddha. I feel happy about it. If that's the way you think, well, Jesus is a Buddha. And if you think that Jesus is higher than Buddha, I think go away with your egoistic feeling. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it is higher than Buddha. Yes, higher than Buddha. And Buddha is lower than Jesus. Okay, high and low is dualistic. So you still preach like and dislike, hatred and love, tall and short, rich and poor. I don't think that's the way Jesus is preaching. You're counteracting yourself. So I say Jesus is great. Jesus is the saint. Jesus deserves a lot of respect. So that answers the question. 感谢观音寺观成法师款待我们 Vancouver School of Theology. Oh, that's good. Thank you very much. We have a guest today, 肖顺法师，他是带他的学生来这里听学跟meditation. So, Vancouver School of Theology. When you study theology, of course, you study religion, and Buddhism it's a religion, and I can say it's not a religion. I don't know what you call it. Buddhism is a religion. It's also not a religion. Buddhism is philosophy. It's also not a philosophy. Then what is Buddhism? Why do you have to label it as something? But we have to talk about it. So if you want me to say Buddhism is a religion, well, it is. Because a religion has rituals. Buddhism has rituals. A religion must have a god, but Buddhism does not claim to have a god, to be a god, so it is not a religion. And some people say, oh, that's great. Our religion has a god and your religion doesn't have a god. We are better. Well, if that's the way to think, that's good. That's good too. And I say in Buddhism, we have a heavens. We have 28 heavens where there's billions of gods in there. We call them gods. We also call them guardian angels. There's another kind of existence. They are God because they live in the land of happiness. But God is not away from reincarnation as yet. They live longevity, but they're not away from reincarnation. We want to be away from heaven. We want to go higher level than heaven. We don't want just to acquire happiness and that's it. We want to be in a land where there is no, I don't know what you call it, where you achieve that bodhi, achieve that purity, achieve that original nature. And what is exactly that original nature? It's not expressible, not conceptualizable. I don't know how you call it. But you really have to study it to find out. If I have a cup of water, if I drink it, and you ask me how hot, how cold, it does not matter how I explain it. You won't get the reality of the temperature of it, because it is cold. Even if I put a thermometer in it, I say 96.5. It's just a figure. You really have to taste it to find out. If you don't even want to taste it, you can never find out.